put 3 things in escrow and, you know, closed 3 this last month, and it was amazing. So, I mean, it's just nice to know that the business, there are options to this business where sometimes we feel like we're on this hamster wheel just by ourselves spinning around. And there are ways to build a business that you can actually step away from. So I just want to share that with you because that was a true testament of that. Thank you. Unless you've been, well, I did warn you about that. Like when you started that, I'm like, you'll never leave this business if it's the 2 of you. That is probably one of the, yeah, you have to have like the 2 of you need to have someone that you both rely on. Yes. So we'll get you there. All right. Okay. That's my birthday. It's my birthday. And it was Amanda's birthday the other day. I don't know. That's Natalie's fault. I think Amanda already had hers. Mine's the 30th. Yeah, it's a big party. Big party. Yay. No. All right, Jay, what do we got? I do have this for you. Yes.
Okay, so what I'm put this together. So this is an example of the cost of waiting, comparing if you bought a home today versus waiting 3 years for rates to improve, versus buying today and then waiting for rates to improve with your refinance. So clients can really see that there's a difference between this. And what I wanted to do, I wanted to send this to you maybe an email with like a video kind of explaining this. You guys can push it out to your clients, say, hey, I know rates are high. They are supposed to be coming down, but really here's what might happen if rates do come down, competition goes up, home prices go up. So this quick example just compares a $500,000 home, this one, with a 6.5% rate, and then doing a down payment of to the 5% down. So we can see the cash to close, it would take about $40,000 closing costs plus your down payment. And it gives you a monthly payment of $3,800. If you wait 3 years, let's say, hey, we want to see interest rates improve by 2%. So we're saying, hey, we wait 3 years, but we get a 4.5% rate. Since the home price actually appreciated at about estimated clip here in California is between 4 and 5% is what we've been seeing. This is the forecasted appreciation. That home price is now $575. So we had to buy a more expensive home. It actually didn't take too much more, about $45,000. So $5,000 more, and it saved us about $200 a month. Negligible. Again, every dollar counts on our monthly budgets, but still, that's about the difference there. However, if you're able to float that $300 or $3,800 payment for a few years, you wait 3 years for that, get that same 4.5% rate. We're now looking at a monthly payment of $2,900. So it takes the same amount of cash to close at the end because there are costs of doing a refinance. Your home, the other cool part about this, your home's appreciated. So if you're now at the point you've got 20% equity in your home, you no longer need to pay PMI. So there's definitely some benefits. $2,900 payment to me looks a lot better than a $3,600 payment, but that's really kind of the value behind it.
I have a question about that. You do the 80% LTV. Do you have to have the house appraised by an appraiser and then submit that to your lender?
So in this example, we'd be doing a refinance.
Right.
So the home value being $575 puts us at 20%. And so during the refinance, we'd have an appraisal done. If we did this one and you didn't wait, so you're fine. So you're still only doing 5% down. But let's say you bought your home, you think you're at 20%, but you don't want to do a refinance. So like somebody who bought a home in 2020 or 2021, the rates were super low. I can't refinance right now. I don't want to get rid of that PMI. You just reach out to your servicer and say, hey, call the mortgage or the 1-800 number on your statement. They'll walk you through the process. They'll have an appraisal, just confirm that you are at 80%. So, but usually, yeah, spend $500.
I have a client that reached out to me and wanted to do a CMA.
Oh yeah,
and it's a really challenging property to do that on. So anyway,
yeah. So
they have the equity in the house, so they called, but they want to.
Yeah. So the CMA, I know we won't fortunately be able to use that. However, you can provide that to the appraiser when they show up to the actual.
Yeah, and that kind of kicked me in the butt the first time around. So it didn't appraise.
Okay.
So
and sometimes comps you can't. Different people look at it different ways, and it's hard to get an appraiser to overturn their idea of value of the owners. But
Yes, Nikki's raising her hand.
go ahead, Nikki.
I have a good morning. Hey, sorry you guys if you were expecting coffee this morning. My dad had surgery yesterday, so I'm home with him, but he's doing great. But that's not my question. Jay, does Fairway allow people to recast their loans?
It depends on who the monthly servicer is. So at Fairway, like if Fairway is servicing the monthly payments of your loan, yes. And every servicer, whether it's Chase or US Bank, Wells Fargo, wherever the monthly payments are through is the one that determines if you're allowed to recast or not.
Okay, thank you.
And the recast is interesting. We tried that on our house because over time, we've paid probably about almost 200,000 down just in chunks. And they said, you can't do it. You can only do it at the time you pay the big chunk down.
Oh, interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, some servicers will do it. You can do a recast every month. It costs like $100 to $500 depending on what it is. It's different from service to service.
Okay. Yeah, it was, I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
dang
that's a
it.
bummer.
I know.
Because yeah, I've heard you can do it every month. Some people only once a year.
Yeah.
Some people there's only one in the life of the loan. So
Yeah.
What's considered a big chunk?
What's that?
What's considered a big chunk?
it's usually like 5% of whatever the original loan balance was. So they do want to see it significant. It's like, but if you did like $1,000, some servicers might do it, but most of them probably won't. They want to see a bigger chunk.
Yeah. So I was like, well, why are we gonna, like, I really don't want to pay this loan now because I'm at 2.25, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, why don't we just recast it out? And my payment will be like, $1,500,
Yeah.
if I can recast to a longer.
Does everyone know how to recast it?
I
Cool.
think we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you basically take your note and recast it over
Mhm.
a 30-year period.
Yep. So like if you're making a larger chunk, you're effectively taking the 30-year loan and you're like, hey, I'll pay an extra principal payment. You're still paying the same monthly from what you had at the beginning, but now you advance maybe 5-10 years down the line. So you only have a 20-year loan now. So yeah, the recasting says, hey, let's stretch it back out, lower the monthly payment to whatever it was. So you say, hey, I got a longer time to pay a smaller.
On a 30 or they start
Mhm.
at 15.
They'll do it on any ones where you pay that extra if you do like a 5% additional pay down. You can't do it unless you're paying that extra chunks each, either monthly or lump sum.
And then does Fairway allow you to, like if you got the loan now and then the rates drop in May, when they drop
Mhm.
in May, do you renew the loan? Because I know one little mortgage company here in town said they guarantee it for 5 years, which I thought was really crazy. But to renew the loan, recast it basically at the lower rate and not charge you anything. Does Fairway do that?
I think they're referring to like a free fine or, yeah, like
Free
something
fine?
free buys.
Uh-huh.
So like doing a refinance with no letter fees.
Right.
Hey, like if you do buy a home now with us, we'll make sure that we do your refinancing.
And what's that time frame that Fairway?
So it's so as far as I know, I don't think Fairway has a free buy. And so there would be lender charges, which might be like $1,500 at the most.
You're still gonna have your appraisal and everything
Mhm.
else. So it's like, it sounds great, but you're still
Yeah.
gonna have fees.
There still are.
I mean, you're still gonna have title and all that kind of stuff. Don't
You
you?
have to pay the new rate.
So
Is so I guess if you're, or like if you did it to a buy down, you're
Mhm.
getting that money from escrow. Is that pay the fees?
So the 2-1 buy down is kind of like, I always refer to it as like a piggy bank. So like you're buying your home, you have your closing costs. The piggy bank, the 2-1 buy down is an extra escrow account essentially. It sits in the escrow account, but it's an extra pool of funds
Yeah.
that each month is pulled to use to pay towards. So like, let's say you do a 2-1 buy down, you have 2 years of a reduced rate. And let's say a year from now, we get an interest rate in the fours. We're like, well, let's just take advantage. We still have money in that piggy bank. So we're gonna take that, you can use that to pay for your closing costs on your refinance if you wanted to, because that money is fully refunded. Whatever is in that piggy bank is due back to you, just like money in your escrow account for your taxes and insurance, when you do finance. Fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the key to that you were saying is what the interest rates are at today.
Right.
Right.
Which
Which is-
so rates are back in the mid-6s. They've been improving. We had a CPI report come out yesterday, or actually this morning at 5:30, we put out their notes. Not, it's slightly above what they expected. So, we're taking a little bit of a hit in the mortgage world, just like stocks and bond, things kind of fluctuate. March 20th was when we were expecting a cut from the Feds, or we weren't expecting it, but that was when the first one potentially would be. And so we're not gonna get that one, unfortunately. May is probably when we'll see the next Fed cut, which Fed's prime rate doesn't necessarily track mortgage rates, but they do go hand in hand. So it's all kind of based off of that news. So still expecting rates to improve as the year goes on, just at a slower pace than what we
What did you say, rates were today?
So we're in the mid sixes. You can always check Mortgage News Daily. They track the average rate across all lenders. What are they saying? The average 30-year fixed is 6.87 is what they're showing with. There you go. Yeah.
What would you say to a client that is like, I'm gonna wait till May?
Mhm.
What verbiage would you use
Yeah.
between like not waiting till May? Besides, I mean, in my mind, it would be house prices
Yeah.
may go up a little bit, but if they're kind of waiting on that, let's see what happens.
Yeah. So it depends on how cheap you want to be. I mean, that is a really good idea. It's such a good idea. Everybody's got the same idea. I would prefer to wait a little bit to buy that home. And it's just competition. So like you're dealing with different challenges at that price, but. That,
Yeah, because I mean, I think even just, and we'll see in the market stats, I'll show you, like when they started talking about rates going, everybody's January was like, everyone's like, oh, we're feeling it all come back. And then February kind of started really pulling back, and I mean, everybody that's coaching all over the country is kind of feeling the same way too, where they're like, okay, it's gonna be a good year. There's 4 rate drops, like we're gonna do this, and then
it's not.
yeah, and so, well, and I think there's another piece I was listening to a thing yesterday on EXP, and the guy was talking about why people aren't buying right now. And they were just talking about like, you're talking about CPI and, like inflation and all that. The cost of everything else is so much as well. Like it's so much more. So when they start thinking about now I'm going to tack on a $3,500 a month payment, on top of my, like maybe they're just even renting right now. And then they're going to go, okay, I'm going to go from $2,000 of rent to $3,500. And then I'm going to have, like yard maintenance, and I'm going to have this, and I'm going to have that. And then, oh yeah. And then I've got, well, my groceries have gone up 20%. My gas has gone up, I mean, all the things that you've got to, that you're thinking about, I think we're all feeling in general is everything's more expensive. I'm like, I feel like I'm like my freaking grandparents when we all, like my friends and I sit around and talk, we're like, oh my God, did you like our insurance went up? And I'm like, oh, like I'm in my 40s. Like, I don't want to be talking about it. Like, it's not like an old lady, but it's hard because it's like everything is so freaking expensive all of a sudden. It feels, you can go to Winco, I'm like, Winco used to be cheap. And now I've got like, 6 bags for like $200. What the heck, So it's just, I think there's some pieces of that too with the consumer that they're struggling. And even they were talking about just that younger generation, in the 20s generation, of how they feel like they've got it in their head they'll never own a house. Like that's a mentality thing. We're just going to rent forever. There's no way we can afford to buy a house. Yeah. So it's really interesting just kind of seeing like, where's the buyers going to come from in the next, like everybody was talking about like how to get ahead of what's the next curve, and who's really buying. And it was single women in their 50s and 60s. Honestly, like there was a lot of that. Like that is the number one group right now that is purchasing homes, is single women. It's interesting. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what statistic they can. Yep.
I've seen that too. Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
A lot of cash out there too.
There's a lot of cash. And then just even from a localized standpoint, we've got all the PG&E money has come back into play again, so the fire money came in, and I think we're seeing a lot of things. According to who I've been talking to. Yeah. You haven't?
Talked about it, but I haven't
I think that 10% is like the final. That's the third wave. I think.
Well, I didn't get anything until last year.
Okay.
I didn't get any of the, so I got my 60%. And then I guess they're saying probably the next one is it, but
Okay.
I'm not holding my breath.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't, but
My brother got a letter saying, like, if you didn't sign that letter, you wouldn't get.
yeah, but that was across the board. That doesn't mean,
Sign that letter.
that doesn't mean that you're actually getting something. That was just like, in case there's more money coming. It didn't mean there is more money coming.
Gotcha.
Yes.
If you didn't.
It
sign
was,
it.
but if you didn't sign it, yeah, then you weren't in the pool to receive anything.
Yeah.
It was more on the attorney side than on the client side, you know what I mean? It was something that they needed from us. not-
Okay.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. No, it's good.
More money.
Yeah.
That takes more money.
So do you guys have clients with like they need financing? Have them underwrite the loan. Get it underwritten ahead of time. That way you're competing a loan is just as competitive as cash. We can close in 10 to 12 days, like, really makes a difference.
Yeah.
So. Just ask your lender, say, hey, like, we want to get this, so like, yeah, we're writing the RPA. So you're writing your offer, there's the option for pre-qualified, pre-approved, and fully underwritten. So just have the lender say, hey, we want to get this in front of an underwriter, get it approved. So we'll go through the whole thing, and then it changes the approval letter that you're submitting to. So.
Yeah.
Oh,
So let me know. Don't even start with me.
Don't start with me right now.
Yeah.
That's good. Perfect. Thank you. Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
How long does it stay good for when you get someone underwritten? Like, is there a time limit on it?
yeah, so it's 120 days, so it's about 4 months.
Okay.
You have 4 months to close that month. Otherwise, you have to redo the credit report, which is gonna have updated pay stubs and things. It's usually pretty easy unless somebody loses their job or something like that.
So you guys are shop for like insurance.
So we are now, like it's, so we. If you knew that going in, yes. We build it all, everything's on a month-to-month basis. So you say, hey, the monthly payment's gonna be $600. So as long as we know that going in, we'll make sure that that's part of the process. As far as waiting for those transfers, that's not as much fun.
Yeah.
Okay, that's been crazy too.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, jumping into some market stats, because Nick's on, so I'm your market stats girl today. Let's see. Okay, so we did average sales price right now, so you can see, and this is over from 2021 to 2024. So what I like to do is look at how have we been trending over time, right? Like some of these. So what's that?
I was just saying.
Yeah, and just remember, average is like, if we sell 100 homes, it's just like, we're gonna take the 1.8 million, and we're gonna take the $250,000 one, right? We're gonna say, okay, what's the average over all of that? And so, that one right now is sitting about 519 for our average sales price. And so you can see at the peak, it was about 539, 540. But again, it's a little tricky on the average. So we also do the median sales price here. So your median is taking the very highest and the very lowest and saying, okay, what's in the middle? Like if we have 100, what's the house that's in the, at 50, right? What's that number look like? So that number right now is very interesting, because in 2022 to almost 2023, it almost stayed exactly the same. It was crazy, like right at 475 was the median. So, and that was for like 8, I was like, is that right? But when I went back and looked at it, for about 8 months, it did that. So the interesting part here is that it is starting to trend back up again. So some higher price stuff is selling again, so I think there was some waves where, the higher price stuff, I mean, all of a sudden we had not seen, I've been doing this for 20 years, and it's like, we hadn't seen a bunch of over $1 million ones for a long time. And then all of a sudden it was like $1 million all day long. And we sold like 30 or 40 of them. I'm like, who even has $1 million, in this town, like to buy these houses? But I mean, it was rare if you saw that before. But so that also affects, when you've got some, maybe Bay Area money coming in, maybe some more fire money coming in, there's just more cash. It's just really interesting to see that median sales price because of some of that higher stuff. And obviously as everything kept going up, it kept going, our median sales price went up, but it is going back up now. So we're at right about 459 is our median sales price. Median price per square foot. This was really interesting because it's all over the map. So the median on that one was about 286. And so at the peak, back in like 2022 up here, right here, we were probably about maybe March or April, we were at about 318 on the median. New listings. So this is just how many new listings have come on the market in any given month. So what I want you to look at is the trend. I'm looking at kind of the last couple of years. So it's really interesting. Even like 2021, we had over 100, like there's about 108 new listings that came on the market back in 2021. In 2022, as we watched the new listings dive off, right, then it was about 49, and then it peaked up. So we were doing everybody was busy, right, during here, and then all of a sudden the new listings coming on the market kept going down. So here we were at about 40, and then this last month, in January 24, we were at I think it was right at like 38 was where we were at for new listings coming on the market. Here's the interesting part though, is that I want you to look at this trend line, see how it kind of went up and then went down a little bit, real similar to what we're doing here, but look how sharp that is. Okay, so these are new listings that have hit the market that month. So not looking lovely. So I think it's just preparing ourselves to go, okay, what does this look like? These are active listings that are currently active, how many we currently have on the market at any given time right now. So we are here. So again, this is, oops, sorry. In January of 2022, again, this is where we had really, really low inventory and that caused everything to go crazy, right? And then the active listings shot up. And then that's when things started kind of slowing down a little bit. And then we saw the big rise, big fall. And then it's just kind of like poke along here. And now we're back down to about 118 active listings here in Chico right now. Okay. So when you think about that, we've got, 30, I think it was 38 new listings. And then we've got over here, we've got about 108, 109 active listings that were on the market. Do you guys know how to think about your sales absorptions, right? When you're thinking about that many have come on and then that many are staying on. So we've got to think about when we are on a listing appointment, how long are they actually normally staying on the market before they're going pending? So this is an interesting one, was the average, this is the sold, which is the average percent of the last list price received on what they sold at. So up here in 2022, we were on averaging about 103, 104% of list price of the last list price. So like, let's say they put it at 500, then they dropped to 475. It was, what was the last list price? Where was it at? Now we are at about 99%. So I love this because I think the important piece to see is there's not these like crazy, amazing deals out there. A lot of the sellers are hanging out. Like, they're just like, we'll just wait. And we'll wait till somebody gets desperate, right? Because we're not seeing that it's at, 80% of value, that people are, when we have those buyers are like, well, I just want a deal. There's not a lot of deals out there to be had. So I think this is a good slide for when you're meeting with a buyer that thinks that they're going to go in and get a good deal. You're saying right now, the average right now that they are coming in at is almost 100%, like in, let's say, November, December. And then now we're at about 99% is what we're closing at. So it's not this huge gap. If you're at a $400,000 house, that's just $4,000 off. Like, that's what's averaging. Yeah.
Sure.
It doesn't always capture. That's why you got it. Like when you're looking at anything, anytime I'm looking at what the comparables are for how I'm writing my offer, I'm always looking at what the credits were or what the concessions were. Because there could have been, some of them there's a $10,000 buy down, so I'm like, and here, Mr. Listing agent, maybe you didn't do your research, but I'm going to show you, here's this one. It didn't close at 415. It actually was more like 405 because they did a $10,000 credit. So this is why we're coming in. Anytime I come in low on a offer, I always justify why we're doing it. Like, we're not trying to be a jerk. We're looking at where things are. We're looking at where things are trending, because a lot of the agents just aren't educated about what's happening in the market or what they're competing against or whatever. And they're definitely not communicating that to their clients. So my goal is always to be able to, how can I communicate this to the seller so that, and sometimes I'll just write them a letter if I can't meet with them, or talk to them face to face. So,
Like price change or price reduction, or
I'm talking if I'm representing the buyer. Yeah, if I'm representing the buyer and I've got an agent on the other side that, like, I know has not had that conversation. They're just like, they've overpromised. Their ego is so big, right? Because they are holding on so tight to what they've told their client, right? And that's most of the time what's happened. So my goal is not to ever make them look bad. It's just to say, hey, I don't know if you are super informed about what's happening in the market, but this is why we wrote the offer where we wrote it. We're not trying to insult the seller. We're just letting you know, like, here's where
the listing agent.
Yeah. Or try to, if you can get in front of the seller to have that conversation, but a lot of times the listing agents won't do it. We used to do it all the time back in the day. We'd be able to present to the seller, but a lot of times they don't do that anymore. But it's good to just be able to present that information along with your offer, just so that, at least you've done your best, with it. So pending sales, again, looking at this. So this is an interesting thing here. They kept going up last year. And this year we've gone up, and then we're on a downward cycle for pending sales. So this is a little bit, again, this is kind of going back to where is the trend going? How are we going to get these buyers off the fence to be able to, to be able to purchase a home? Because we're definitely seeing people backing off of purchasing. So what is that going to do to prices? I mean, I think there's going to be, even I look at the 3 that we closed, all 3 of them, I think were all due to a death, weren't they?
Well, except for the one, Moraga was not, but yes, Veneto and
Moraga's not?
Roxbury,
Okay,
Moraga,
Yeah.
But yes,
okay.
but the 2 were.
So when you start thinking about like,
Yeah.
the sellers that are out, I was like, man, like there's some desperate, not desperate, but you've got a reason for selling, right? Like, because there was a death. And then, or you move, like you got a job in a different area. So like a lot of the listings that are coming on right now are people that are, in a position where they've got to sell. They're not coming on because they're just like, let's test the market out. So I think that's really interesting here. And as we look at the pending sales, we've just got to see about how do we get some of these buyers off the fence. But this was a little bit concerning to me. So I think we need to pay attention to that and go, okay, what do we need to be doing about that? We need to be messaging, getting that message out there about what other opportunities are there. How can we do a buy down on a rate, right? Like, how can we make it more affordable? That's our goal, is to get more people in the mindset that they can't afford a home. And so I think there's, instead of going, hey, we're going to drop the price by 20,000. Okay, maybe we can do a rate buy down, to, I don't know what you can buy it down to right now, but like, if you're, that's why you talk to your lender and go, okay, what are our options looking like? So we can educate the people out there that are sitting on the fence to go, here's why, because right now there's not a lot of competition. But come typically in the spring, you're going to have a lot more competition. There's a lot more people out shopping. And then closed sales, because we had, again, we're always probably 30 to 45 days back. So it was probably right here, we had a bunch of pendings right there. And then we had it popped up for closings. I wouldn't be surprised if our closings go down this month. Just because of, you're following the trend line from 30 to 45 days ago of pendings. Where's that going to go? So, all right, any questions or thoughts or comments on any of this stuff?
It's funny, I can't remember which one it was, but you saw that I think it was that how many houses were selling. It's like if you flip that and put the APR raises and all this things like that, probably track the exact same line. And it was just like, oh man, that's a big.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, you just start looking. I mean, if you guys listen to the news, I mean, it's all so driven, right? And you're kind of like, what is your agenda here? Like, what? I feel like there's this alternative agenda from the government and the media and everything. I'm like, what are we trying to accomplish here? Because I mean, housing. If we can get housing moving again, everything gets moving again, right? But right now, I mean, it's such a. What's that? Yes.
Make sure you vote, use your voice.
Yep. Absolutely.
Don't just opt out.
Yeah, no, don't put your head in the sand. But again, this talks about our inventory months of supply. So how many were, when we had the amount of pendings versus the amount of listings coming on versus the amount of new listings, active listings. So we were up at about 2.7, and then, now we are down at about 1.9. So again, our active listings being 108, we're pending roughly like, 38 last month. So that gives us right at about 2.7 months worth, I'm sorry, 1.7, 1.8 months worth of inventory. So not a lot of great stuff out there. When great listings do come on, they're getting nabbed up with multiple offers and going way over asking.
I was I had $5 on this. Like, why are you buying up my house? Like,
right?
Yeah.
Well, probably because I mean, kind of what we were talking about. You're like, now I'm going to miss out on having that one as a live out because you put a deal together. And I think there's a lot of that happening. So that is another reason for us kind of communicating about what do we have in the pipeline, so we can, if there's some stuff that people don't want to, that we can pull together.
When it's kind of a good thing too for your computer, you can give you the opportunity to get buyers.
Right.
Those open houses.
For sure.
That's how I used to do it.
Yeah.
I used to get questioned, why are you doing open house ceremony? But then I started getting clients. So.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. You're welcome. You're very welcome. All right. Katie. Yes.
Hopefully everybody.
Yeah. Which spot?
That works.
We need not to do it.
I just bought. They were just like $5 on Amazon. So I'm like, these are cute. Yeah. Well, I got like a couple thousand, so they were expensive. Yeah, repurpose them, do whatever you want. Okay, so I really just wanted to give you guys a refresher on how to, no, well, I don't know if you're using them. Not yet. Actually, I'm just gonna log into yours, Erica, if this is logged in, then I should be easier. Okay, so just a reminder how you can get to the Legal Live webinars, because those are very cool and very important. I think there's a lot of information you guys could grab from them. I got all of this from attending a webinar, and they send out a lot of packets. So when you're in the car, Dip Forms login, just go to the dashboard, make sure you log in or it's just gonna make you log in later. Go to Transaction Center, and then you're just gonna go over to where it says Risk Management at the top, select Risk Management, and then scroll down to the bottom where it says Legal Live Webinars. The other way you can do this is go into the search right over here in the corner and just type in Legal Live Webinars. I like this way because I have gotten lost in the search and it's taken me to like all the articles and I don't want to have to search. So this just takes me right where I need to. And then you just scroll down and it has past videos right here, as well as upcoming webinars. So you can register for webinars that they have coming up. Like they already have the one for the new and revised forms for June. So that, and then they'll tell you if it gets updated, like if they cancel it or whatever, they'll send you an email once you register and do that. So yeah, dealing with abusive clients and agents. There you go. Oh, good. So here's this is the upcoming one. So this is how you register for those. If you wanted to watch something that they had in the past, it goes by date of the last one performed. So you'll see like the next one, obviously this one says coming soon, and then it goes down. And you can watch this, look at the slides and the handouts. I recommend just looking at the slides. The handouts are like, they'll send you the paper like this, and then it's the tiny little piece of slide, and then it's just a bunch of like space for you to write in it, and you can't actually see the slide. I know I'm blind, but I still can't see it myself. So I just do the handout because there's still extra space around the edges for you to write and put your notes and do all that on the slides. Yeah, that's just my recommendation. And then you can just rewatch it later on too. So that's really cool. So if you registered for one, they will send you the link if you can't attend it. So I registered for the new laws one today, but I'm not gonna be able to make that one. So they're just actually gonna email it to me, so I don't have to go search for it, which makes it easier. Usually once a month, they'll have some kind of webinar, and it's all with the car lawyers, so they're really informed, and the trainers are they're great. I think it's all the ones that when you watch the new and revised forms, those are the same people. Sometimes they have really good, even better people. But you have all of these different options to go back, and you can go back months and even years. This is all back in 2021, so that's, if you ever need education, that's where you go for that. But I wanted to provide you guys with the buyer representation agreements because these are very important. I've taken 4 classes, I think, now on this, and it's still complicated. It's still complicated. It's still very complicated, and a lot of people aren't. What I'm seeing is I'm getting the most information from the Legal Live webinars when they teach this, rather than when I'm learning it from like a car trainer like myself. So those people are still trying to learn it themselves, and then they're trying to teach it, and it's really difficult. So I like to learn it from the lawyers because they're the ones who wrote it, and they break it down word for word. So that really helped, but just reading through it really helped me. So just print it out and all the corresponding forms that go with it and just read it. Just like they recommend you read the purchase agreement line by line, do the same thing. because this is gonna get important for you guys moving forward. So this is the quick guide. CAR has this for almost every single thing in their library. So I think you can just look up quick guides and they'll just have all of them. So a couple ones I just want to highlight for you guys. In the middle where it says what types of buyer representation agreements are available, on the first bullet point, something that I thought was important is the BRBC defaults to non-exclusive representation, but may be exclusive by checking the applicable box. So making sure you're checking the box for an exclusive agreement. If not, it defaults to a non-exclusive. It means that they could work with other people, and then you have to make sure that if you work with them on that transaction that they've already seen with another person, then you have to pay them. It gets really complicated. If it's non-exclusive, not necessarily. If exclusive, yes. Yeah, based on the term of your agreement, yeah. And attached to the BRBC is the buyer transactional advisory. Make your client sign that. It is attached. So if you have them sign the BRBC, but you don't have them sign the transactional advisory, it's not a valid document because it is attached. So just remember, same thing with the purchase agreement. Anything that actually says it's attached to the PRBS, the FHDA, all of those, if those aren't included, you don't have a binding agreement. So just make sure you have those. Yeah, I know, more.
Do it, where everybody there's on there, like a Zoom, and we actually go through and spend 45 minutes and build out our templates.
Yep. I think that's a great idea.
Like, make them happen.
Yep.
Are these disclosures right here, or do you?
On which one? The forms, the supplemental forms?
Yeah. So what are the additional forms?
Yep, so the anticipated broker compensation disclosure. That one's,
Okay.
that one is ABCD.
All right.
Then you have the cancellation of the buyer representation. Read that because you can cancel your agreement with them. If they decide to, you decide to just part ways, it's not working out, just cancel it. Notice of broker involved properties and the seller payment to buyer's broker. There are more. And I will definitely show them all to you, and I'll send you all the links to them. So then you guys can just see all of the ones that are associated with this type of form. And I'll send it in an email today. So you guys will have it, everything. So you can print them out, look at them.
Is
And
this
go for it.
required at this point?
It's not required at this
And
point.
is there a place in SkySlope to put all these documents? Because
No.
what I'm finding is that SkySlope, okay.
SkySlope is very behind in
Okay,
this.
thank you.
All of the
Like the
new,
BHIA is not even SkySlope yet.
correct, yeah. A lot of the forms that were in the last grouping of the new forms that were released have not been updated in SkySlope. EXP has been the slowest one to update their forms to have those. So if you do have them, I just put them in the miscellaneous disclosure.
Yeah.
That's where they were advising me to put them, so I put them there. They said they're working on it, but they just haven't.
I just didn't know if they had this as an
They're-
option yet.
No, they're
Okay.
not making it required yet either, but you should start learning about it now,
yeah.
figuring out how to use it, maybe start using it, because it's gonna start becoming a reality.
But if you use it, you have to use it every time.
You have to use it every time.
So.
So just
You're gonna use
be
it,
prepared for it,
prepared,
but
you're
I
gonna use
would,
it every time. You can't
definitely-
just choose when you want to use it and when you don't.
yeah, but I would protect yourself because your clients are starting to learn about this. They're hearing it from their people. Clients, I've heard from multiple people working with different people at the same time now, hearing different things. So they're starting to get educated themselves. So you don't want to get stumped by a client that never looks good.
When did you use all this fair housing?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that was me. You're welcome.
Well, and I heard it on a webinar.
Yeah, yeah.
I was on a webinar where they said, yeah, if you don't use it every time, that's a fair housing, it's a discrimination.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes it scary. So
Right, so you either.
when
use
you're
it every
ready to
time or
use
don't
it,
use it.
use it, and then just make it the habit, but learn what it is, because more than likely this is going to become the industry standard and they're going to make you do it. EXP is talking about doing it as a requirement for their files. So I think, well, EXP is also a lot larger, and most of you guys are a part of the regular California one, not the Northern California. And that one tends to have a lot of problems because that's spread over all of California. Down south has kind of the reason why this is happening. It's down south. Yeah,
So
hi.
just, I'm just for those of you that so I was at the CAR Western meetings in Monterey, so CAR did pass, for the board, it did pass that this will be, they're looking for an author to help to write a bill that would go into legislative that makes this mandatory, so even if you're not a member of CAR, all licensees would have to use it. The only thing is they haven't decided what this timing is on it, right? Like if it's before you show property or if it's before you write a contract.
Mhm.
But the board did pass that at our winter meetings, so that will take a little while for that to author that bill and to actually get into law, but that is the path. And they did that because they wanted to be in control of how the bill was written, right? So it's gonna happen one way or another, and we'd rather be in control of how it's written versus having somebody else that doesn't do our business right for it.
Mhm.
So,
Before or after.
yeah, so that was 45-minute debate. after our TAR. The conclusion is that we passed it as the board, but, you know.
The details are still
The
being
details,
determined.
yeah, exactly. The details will be what is figured out as they offer the bill. We just have to trust that our leaders in CDR are going to have our best interest. Right.
Yeah. I would not be surprised if we see this in the June update. So I would start learning this now, because this
Yeah,
will take a little
definitely.
bit and then start implementing it into your business. So then it won't be a change of pace. And then when you start seeing, because you're gonna have to start sending them as well. So
Well, if they
there's a lot of.
require it for everyone, see, that's gonna be the problem is if only, I mean, if they require it statewide, then everybody has to do it,
Correct.
right? Because there's some buyers who don't want to do this at this point. So they might go with an agent that is like, oh, my brokerage doesn't require this.
Mhm.
So I don't want to sign an agreement with you.
And those agents are probably gonna get in trouble.
Well, yeah, if it's a requirement.
Yeah.
So it'll be better, right?
Yeah.
Right now, it's not a requirement, so some agents are doing it, and I'm not sure that it is a benefit, but I don't know that the public sees that as a benefit.
Yeah.
At this point.
And this packet will help you guys,
Yeah.
and
Perfect.
we'll get into
Thank you
it.
so much.
So then another thing I want to emphasize is that that third section where it says what should be emphasized to a buyer when presenting the buyer representation forms. Bullet point number 1, the forms establish a mutual agreement to work for and with one another. So if you were framing it that way, and signing so the very bottom one, I wish they put those together because this really makes more sense. So it says form establishing a mutual agreement. But then if you go down to the bottom bullet, it says signing an agreement is very common for professional service, such as contractors, lawyers, consultants, accountants, and doctors, even if payment ultimately comes from a third party like an insurance carrier. That's another way you can frame it, talk about it. It's a mutually binding agreement. Pretty much just saying, I promise to work for you, you promise to work for me.
And these are great to present during your buyer's consultation when you're sitting down. You know, they take them
Absolutely.
serious.
Absolutely, being prepared, having the information. Second bullet point, another one, any compensation offered by the seller's broker is credited against the buyer's obligation to pay. The buyer may not have to pay anything at all for the broker services. So emphasizing that you're signing the agreement, you are saying you are agreeing to pay me X amount of dollars. However, if we get in the contract, the seller is willing to pay my commission, it will take X amount of dollars off of that, or the X amount of percent if it doesn't match. So if you agree to 3% and MLS shows 2.5, you can either reduce your commission saying, I'll take the 2.5, I won't ask the buyer to pay it, or they'll bring in that extra 0.5%. So there's a couple different options for that. And then the bullet point number 4, the scope of the agreement can be broad or narrow. So you can kind of change it to a Butte County, to Chico. You can do it to single family residences in the county, or you can do only single family residences with 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, priced within a certain range or located within a certain city. If you go very narrow, just know you're gonna have to revise it and have to change it if they decide, because we all know those buyers have wild hair up their nose and are like, I want X, Y, and Z. And then all of a sudden they're like, I want this one. You're like, that was nothing on your list. So you'd have to update your modification. Yeah, they're like, oh, I have to have a pool, and they're like, don't need a pool anymore. You're like, okay, that's fine. And then the rest of these are just kind of question and answers that they had, like FAQs that they wanted to provide. So these are really good. I read through these and I thought they were really good information for you guys. So it's like, how do I ask the buyer to execute it? Especially when there may be other agents who are not requesting such an agreement. So it's kind of just scenarios so that you guys can read over them, kind of help frame how you want to do it in your presentations. And then on the very back one is informing about the broker's compensation. The ABCs are the ABCD form, and it tells you practice tips and all these sections and kind of breaks it down for you. I'll send you guys the actual, there's quite a few. So I'll send you all of the documentation for these forms so you just can look over them and go over them. and then we can set up a time to go over
Yeah.
and create your as a template.
Yeah.
But then here's like
Yeah.
the ABCD form. This is what it kind of looks like. The body of it's in here. It just tells you to be filled with, can't read upside down. The section to be filled out when the property is being shown or when an offer is being made. They have also said another option would be doing the MLS printout showing compensation at the bottom. So the regular MLS detail sheet that the agents get, having them sign that works as well. I like that one because I've seen an agent change all of it. Like said that it wasn't ever there and changed it. And so I had to go to the board. He was like, no, it was always 1%. I was like, no, it wasn't. I have the MLS detail sheet showing this is what it was at active. And then when we went pending, they switched the number. Yeah. So they got in trouble for it. Yeah, they got in trouble. So just, I like having those detail sheets because then it shows that, and then you're having the client sign it saying that's what it is. And if your agreement shows 3% and that one says 2.5, that's where you guys can do your modification, which the buyer representation agreement can be modified now on a modification of terms. So it's not just for listings. It actually has a box that says buyer representation agreement. So that'd be the same form for that one.
I'm not allowed to use lawyers. I know it's just when you get that, and then,
The third book we were taking, I was with the law stuff, I moved to get the property. They sent me home, and I've been very happy that I got.
Yeah.
I was gonna send it back. No, I want property management.
You don't want the property.
No, I got that one. It was, yeah. Okay, any questions?
Thank you, Katie.
Some agents charge their client 5%. On a house, like a regular house.
Well, they can,
They can do it.
like saying you're an attorney that works for $200 an hour, and somebody else charges $1,000 an hour, what's the value you bring to them? I don't know, that's up to them, the client.
So they charge 5% to the buyer plus they got whatever the seller was paying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
That seems scandalous.
that looks.
They'll get in that too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That'll
Well,
be
until they come to, I mean, you can't regulate.
What did they offer? What did they offer though?
If we're doing events, so,
What do you mean?
well, normally it's like commissions are between you and the seller, and then you don't really talk to other agents about what you charge. It's
Like agent to agent.
Oh. It's like, normally a conversation that would be had.
We don't have to, I mean, you can. Because they've already determined, they already, as a central listing, they already determined their commission.
We're all gonna start free and we all do it together.
Right.
Yeah.
That's like, those, yeah, something bad.
I think too, Brittany, what you were saying is like, as a listing agent, I have seen where people are like, they don't have the money to put into fixing the house. So they charge a higher percentage because that comes out of the proceeds of the sale, and they say, I'm gonna pay $5,000 to help you fix your house. So that comes out of the percentage.
Yeah.
So that could be why they charge 5%.
Yeah.
Well, but they do that. People do that.
Yeah.
They're recouping their costs, but it's coming out of the sale of the house instead of
Right.
Because the agent might
Upfront.
have upfront cost.
the upfront. Yeah,
money.
because the seller doesn't have the money to fix something.
Yeah.
So that I've seen that happen too.
I mean, I kind of did that. It's pretty bad, listing where I charge, I check an extra 0.5% because I put paint their garage.
Right.
And all that.
Right, they didn't-
And they were like, why are you charging this? I was like, because I know that work for free, and they're like, oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I
Right.
explained that they were fine with it.
They forgot about it at the end.
At the end, yeah.
We talked about it. We did.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, how many of you guys have heard of Mel Robbins? Okay, if you haven't, she's freaking rad. She's like my little soul sister, because she just shows up like super authentic. And I don't know how many of you guys know this, but so I just went through last fall, I did a full life certification program with Jay Shetty. It was freaking amazing. But where I'm bringing that into my coaching is I realized after coaching for, probably 15 plus years, how many people, when they're creating their business plans, have no idea really why they're picking the number that they're picking. So just by show of hands right now, how many of you feel like you have a crystal clear plan on exactly what you want to have happen this year in your business, in your life, in your finances?
Crystal clear.
Crystal clear, and you're executing on it. Okay, good job. Okay, our 10%. For the rest of us, for the rest of us here, right? So I found this one. She did this, and what I want to do with us, and in all honesty, I'm doing it kind of for me too. But then as I'm talking to everybody, everybody's kind of feeling the same way. Everyone's feeling a little lost this year. Like, I can't tell you how many agents I've talked to that have been in the business for 15 or 20 years. They feel like they're starting over again. It's just been it's a funky time, and like you're having to kind of revamp everything, and what worked 2 to 3 years ago and for the last 15 years doesn't work anymore. And so looking at it from a kind of a multi-tiered strategy, and whoever wants to do this, I'm going to set this up because I'm doing this for myself too, where I'm going to actually take time to like really work on what it is I want. And then what is it I'm going to do and what the plan is. Not just like half day. All right, let's put a number on the wall. Let's throw a dart and it sounds good. And okay, I need to do 20 listings. I'm like, I don't want to do 20 listings. That sounds exhausting. I don't even know how I'm going to get them, like, right? Which is what most of us do. So I'm going to take a month, this next month, and work on this business plan here. We sent it out to you, but I did make some copies for whoever wants to take it home. There are 3 copies here, and I can definitely make more if you guys are interested in doing this. Then we can do this. Did you? Right, but it takes a lot of time and energy, honestly. Awesome. So what we're gonna do with it basically, I'll send you the podcast if you guys want to sign up to do this, but we're gonna take this month and work on more like, where are we? What are we grateful for right now? And then what do we really want to see happen in this year it's kind of like the wheel of life. If you guys have ever done the wheel of life with me, but it's almost like the wheel of life, like deeper than the wheel of life, right? Like, because we kind of go, oh, we're a 3, we're a 5, we're a 6. And then I'm always like, okay, well, what does a 10 look like? You're like, I don't know, so why'd you pick a 3? So like, it's always so subjective to where we are right now. But the thing I love about this one is she actually makes you go in and go through like all your photos and go through any like journaling that you've done. And you have to go month by month and think about what great things happened last year, right? Because so we're so conditioned to look at the things that aren't working, right? That we don't give ourselves credit or don't look at all the things that are working and that are positive and that are amazing in our lives. And so what this is, we're going to spend 2 weeks doing this on your own, going through this and really actually physically taking the time to do this on part 1. And then we're going to take the next 2 weeks and do part 2. So part 1 is all about like, where are you? What great things, like basically giving gratitude, right? Like, for where am I right now? What are all the great things that are working really, really well? And take some time to actually like pause for a second and think about what that looks like. Because we all have so many amazing things to be grateful for, but we always are like, oh, I'm not doing what I did last year. Oh, this doesn't work, and oh, I'm frustrated with this, it's so easy to go down that path, right? So then we'll go into the second part, which is more like, where do you want to be? What things do you want to stop doing that you were doing, right? Like, what things are holding you back? So really digging into some of that stuff to see, what do we actually want to have happen? Now, I want you to get out of well, I did 20 last year, so I should do 23 this year. Like, if you ever hear yourself saying should, that is someone else's influence on you. Okay. Because anytime anyone's like, oh, I should do this, then they go, I'm like, stop saying should. Like, you should. Why should you? Because that's what somebody else told you was supposed to like make you happier, is if you keep going and getting more and more and more. That's so not the case, right? So the case is really about, what do I actually want? And at this stage of our life, a lot of us are in this phase, like where we're in our 40s and 50s, and we're like, we kind of forgotten what do I actually want? Not what do I have to do to like take care of my family or my spouse, or what do I have to do? It's more like, okay, what do I want? Like, we actually can live an intentional life that's a life by design. So taking that next 2 weeks and doing that. And then from there, the biggest thing I'm seeing is in almost all my coaching clients is a lack of systems that are going towards a goal. Okay, so this is such an amazing time to get your systems in place because the market will turn around. So, and when I say systems, I mean, you have a system for when you wake up. Like, what do you do? Like, how are we going to show up as a job? If you think about where you're spending your time right now, you know, are you getting paid in equivalence to how much time you're actually spending on the job? I mean, I would say, yeah, for me, right? Because I'm like, okay, I really probably only work about 10, 15 hours a week. If I'm really talking about like coming in and physically working versus like, oh, scrolling on Instagram. Oh, there's a cat. Maybe I'll make some lunch. And I'm like, Eric's like, what did you do to him? I don't know. I worked really hard. He's like, but I can't say like I'm being intentional. So it's for me, it's about getting back and being intentional about your systems for your life to build your intentional life. And that could be systems with what lead generation activities are you going to do? How are you going to get up and are you going to work out first thing in the morning? And then what does your routine look like? And trying to get yourself back into a way that is scalable to hit whatever goals are important to you. Right. And so that doesn't mean that we have to have systems to go to another level. I mean, you said it perfectly the other day. You're like, thank God for our systems when you were gone, because I couldn't think. I just had to just go into the system and like literally go into our CRM and it told her every day what to do, right? Because that's how well our systems are built out. And so it's like, but how can we apply that to some other areas of our life or other areas of our business? So we're going to start doing some, after we finish this and figure out where we want to go, we're going to work on our business plan. If you haven't done your business plan, or you're going to pull your business plan back out off the shelf and dust it off and go, what did I say I wanted to do? And do I still want that? Am I doing what I need to be doing? Are the activities there for where, am I going to hit that goal? Or do I want to revise this based on now where I'm at, where I think I actually want to be? So we're going to look at that for about a month and look at, building out your business plan really clearly, building out your business budget really clearly, building out your personal budget for what your savings goals are, your retirement goals, your investing goals, so that we have a really crystal clear picture of what that looks like. And then from there, we're going to start just taking one chunk at a time. So I've got these like, foundation. Here's like the 10 things you need for your foundation. How are they on a scale of 1 to 10, right? Okay, we're going to work on systems just for that for the next month. And then we're going to work on systems just for lead generation. We're going to work on systems just for lead follow, so that by the end of the year, we have everything built out, like actually built out, that has a system behind it. It has a budget behind it. It is ready to go, and we're using it at a consistent basis versus just throwing a dart at the wall. And we're going to keep staying in the cycle. And for the next 5 years, we're going to do the same things that we're doing and wonder why we're never getting to where we want to go. So does that sound like a good plan? Yeah. Okay. So whoever is interested, I want you just to think about it, because this is going to be a little bit of a commitment. I want a group that's not just going to show up for the first couple weeks and then fade out. So if you're not feeling like that's something to commit to, I'll send something out by the end of the week. So I want you to think about it, and we'll have some times of what that's going to look like and what the homework will look like, and just what that time commitment is going to look like. And then you can let me know if you guys want to commit to, who wants to commit to it.
So this thing that you just handed out, what on this do we need to be? You said, the first 2 weeks we're going to be doing this. And
so we'll start. So by Friday, I'm going to just ask for commitment, and then we'll do it every other Friday is the goal.
And this part is the first 2 weeks part?
There's half of that. So there's a part 1 and a part 2 in that.
But that's just the first 4 weeks, let's say. The first,
the first 4 weeks are going to be
grateful thing. And then
Okay.
It's we did, but we can, for whoever wants to do this. And I mean, I'm kind of looking at this as like it's not going to be crazy, because I don't do crazy, but I want to get my all my systems back. And because I used to be so good at all my systems. We're good at a few systems, but I want us to have clarity on all the systems. I'm like, what's our lead follow-up system? What's our, we used to be so good at all that. So I'm like, I got to bring all that stuff back. What strategies are we using? And how do we do that consistently? What does it look like on Monday that we do? What does it look like on Tuesday that we do? So treating it like a business again, because I think that's where we have to be right now to be able to survive and really just be able to thrive in this business, in this space that we're in right now. So I'll shoot all this stuff out to you today, but then I want you to really think about it, not just like, yeah, sign me up. I want you to think about if you actually want to commit to this for the year.
So it's twice a month.
It's going to be twice a month. Yep. Yeah, we'll probably do an hour. Yeah. And we'll talk through it. And then you're going to be responsible for doing some of the activities. And I mean, we can work together if you guys are like, hey, I just want, like, if we have the thing on Friday, maybe Tuesdays, we're gonna come in here with our laptops and we're just gonna bang it out. Okay, cool. I don't care. Like, that
I
sounds
like
good.
that too.
It's very. Like, I fill out the circle, but I have two pages of my year, but it was to go back through photos.
Mhm.
But I wrote out like all of the, cause you like reflect back and then you look forward, and then I did like my personal audit and all that. But it's really great that, cause then it's like, okay, I did all this and I kind of knew what I wanted, and my friend and I, you know, did it together and we talked about it. We do weekly calls on Sunday morning.
Mhm.
And, but then it's kind of nice because it's like perfect timing, then it's like, okay, now it's like the action part, of,
Right.
like all of this,
Mhm.
which we kind of, I mean, I kind of took some of this and put it into place for different areas of my life,
Right.
but not as much for business.
Mhm.
So I'm like, this is perfect. So,
Good.
but it is very like the writing out of everything it's really good because it makes you think about like what you did. And it is not a hand slap. That's what my friend and I went into it. I said, we do that. We kind of look at the past year and we're like, I didn't do this, and I didn't do this, and I didn't do the gym as much, and I wanted, I'm like, oh, you know, what was I thinking that I could do this? But it's more about like, what are you doing that you're gonna keep doing?
Mhm.
What are you gonna change? And then what, you know, what's working for you that you're gonna continue doing? It's
Right.
not necessarily like, I suck, last year
No.
sucked.
That's why I love this.
Me
It was
too.
like, I'm like, I want to incorporate this like into the way that I do my wheel of life, because it's more like, where am I and then where do I want to be? And but I love that she makes you reflect, because that was such a missing piece to go,
Yeah.
okay, we've got to reflect on all the things that are working, because we're so good at seeing all the things that aren't working, or they're not where we want them to be, or whatever it is, but we don't give ourselves credit or grace for, look how far we did come. Look at the things we did accomplish last year. You know, look at the memories we made last year. Like, those are all really important. So,
And some of us are doing the Atomic Habits.
well,
And this ends on Friday. It's our last one on Friday, and a lot of what when you were explaining this, it's all like, it ties in
It
so
totally
well
does,
to
like-
what we have been doing.
yeah,
as a
yeah.
group.
Well, and so I mean, I read that book too, all
Yeah,
off, and
it goes
was
hand in hand.
It's
so
so
good.
good. And so it's just like, yeah, like, what
It's
are
a
the
good
little
step.
habits?
It's just good timing.
Yeah.
We finish on Friday.
Good. Well, and I know a lot of you didn't do business plans or didn't do in-depth ones too, and I didn't either. So I feel like I'm kind of floating this year a little bit. Like, I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Then I'm like, what am I doing? Like, we need to, you know, just rally together and see who wants this. And if you want it, cool. Like, I need to do it for myself. So I'm like, let's all do it together, whoever wants it. I am a huge fan of like, invite other agents into this. Like, I mean, I have no problem throwing it out there too. Like, invite lenders, invite whoever you want that you feel like could benefit from it. So I love it. I mean, your businesses and our businesses are very similar. Are we done at time? 11. Okay. All right, so moving on, we just got a couple of housekeeping things. So they did increase, EFT did increase the risk management fee. So just remember, risk management is E&O at $750. That's still freaking cheap, like ridiculously cheap. So it was at $500. They bumped it up to $750. Just as a previous broker, I'm going to let you know that is amazing. So that a lot of brokerages use that as a profit center, where maybe your, is, $10,000 and you've got 40 agents and they're using that as a profitability center. These guys, as well as how we used to do it before, we always just like, it's just gotta be it's just a pass-through cost. So what it's costing them is what they're pushing over to us. And then the 5% discount on the stock, it used to be a 10% discount when they would buy it. So we're still paying the 5% out of whoever's opted into this. We're still doing the 5% out of each check. They're just now buying it at a 5% discount instead of at a 10% discount for us. I think that's probably more sustainable anyways for the long term for the company. But it's still very good. So any questions on that? Okay. We got Bidwell per coffee talk. So Fridays at 9. Are you guys going to continue?
I think so, because
Okay.
it's hard to find another day and time
Okay.
but we can talk about it on Friday because it's our last book club
Okay.
meeting, and we can talk about if we can make a change, but it doesn't seem like it's hard to find a time.
Right. Okay. And
Then
then
else,
the
free
first
Friday
and third
coaching.
Fridays on that, with Empire Builders with Casey, she is bringing in some free and amazing speakers too. So it used to just be Rick's Friday coaching call and it was fine, you know, but now she's actually going out and proactively bringing different people into those calls and they're talking directly about their businesses. Like this week's somebody about how they're using, you know, really high level strategies with AI and the real estate business. People that are actually in it, right? Like this is their team and this is how they're using it. So the last few weeks have been amazing. So I've listened to a few of them and they do have them recorded and everything. So those are good.
We
And-
could do like, if we decided as a group, like we could do the second and fourth Fridays of the month for coffee talk,
Mhm.
if depending on what everybody wants to do.
Yeah.
We can help.
Yeah, we can definitely figure
That,
something out.
that is
So,
very valuable.
yeah.
Okay, we can talk about that now.
Okay. Yeah, no, scripts are always a good one.
It's always good to know what we need, like what are we,
Yeah.
wanna have value.
And then if you aren't looking at this one, this is all Brent's stuff that he's putting on at the local level down at PCAR in Placer County. Freaking awesome. We are going to try to get to this one here in June. If you haven't heard this guy talk or any of his stuff, he's unreal. Phil Stringer, he's the guy. I remember when I did the AI thing here. This is the guy. He's going to teach you how to use ChatGPT at a high level. I mean, we're literally, Jay and I we're recording a video today after this. And I got into ChatGPT. I pay for the pro version because I'm using it for everything now. And I'm just like, create a script about first-time home buyers in Chico, California, and Paradise, California with Jay Jones at Fairway Mortgage. And it spits out our whole thing. And I'm all copy paste, put your stuff in here, Jay. We're going to do a video, you know? And it's like, it just doesn't have to be complicated. Like, I mean, I'm rewriting a whole buyer script thing or buyer follow-up program with AI. And then we're putting videos in, we're putting text messages in and stuff. It's so awesome what it can do. $20 a month for the pro version.
I'm using, I took the advice that you gave off that one and you answer the 25, 55.
Yes.
Whatever, and it was business.
Right. So I'll plug that in sometimes. Like if I have specific ones that are talking about like, you know, that are a little different. The pro is all current stuff and chat that, yeah, it's kind of like 2.0 versus 4.0. So it was like anything from like, it was the original one that's free. And I think that's like 2021 or 2022 and older. And then the new one is all new, all real-time stuff. Yeah. So anyways, he's coming. I mean, you guys should, you should come to these. I mean, Bill Tice was just there. I mean, he's freaking unreal. So June 20th. Yeah. Yeah. So I think it'd be fun to carpool down there if you guys want to. Yeah. Yeah. So if you guys want to throw that on your calendar right now, that would be fun to just, if we leave here at like 8 and then, you know, we can get back here. If we go to lunch after, we can get back here by like 3 or 4, just make a fun day of it. So throw that on your calendar. All right. How's and what's?